So everyone in chat, uh, we have Adam and Pack from the Messenger Party app. It is a Web 3 based, would you say peer-to-peer messaging
Yeah, we sort of like to say like chat app. It's where you do
chat
your
app?
one-on-one conversations, peer to peer, exactly, small groups.
Awesome, awesome. Are you able to just break down what Messenger app is for everyone?
Yeah, so it's called Message Party, and
Message Party,
it's
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, you're all good. And it's like on a very basic level, it's a personal chat app. So like think about all the places you have one-on-one conversations with friends, right? Your Telegrams, your WhatsApps, your iMessage, and imagine if that was built from the ground up for Web3 functionality. That's what we're doing with Message Party. And so what this enables is essentially a whole new realm of functionality and a whole new sort of level of engagement that we really haven't been able to have before. And we can sort of dive into what that means. But on a simple level, it's sort of a place for you to be able to chat with your friends as this whole sort of ecosystem expands.
Awesome. So we have it broken up here the way the questions go. We have about 20 or so questions, and then if you guys don't mind, maybe just taking some from chat if they have anything, if that's cool with you
Yeah.
guys. All right,
Can I
perfect.
just interject quickly, Steve?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, Adam, I'm interested to know a bit more about you.
Yeah,
How
of course.
how did you get into this space, and what drew you to the
Definitely. I'm happy
blockchain?
to also give a little team background and Pat can give his as well. Um, I've always been really fascinated by the sort of intersection of digital identity and technology. So I actually got started in college. I worked at startups, and I got started my career really at William Morris Endeavor, which is a talent agency in Los Angeles. And around that time, this around 2017 or so, I sort of saw the writing on the wall, which was anyone with a camera anywhere could create and distribute content globally and build a really engaged community. And that was going to disrupt everything. And this was really like, height of YouTube. This Twitch is really coming big now. And I was like, oh, there's this decentralization, this almost this opportunity for anyone to really build an audience. And so got really interested in that space. And there's a man at the time, Benjamin Grubbs, who was head of top creative partnerships at YouTube. And he was starting a venture funded studio to invest in startups in the creator economy and sort of build companies in that space. So I sort of came on as a second hire there at his fund and got to work with some really amazing founders at the time. One of which was Neil Robertson, who's our other co-founder. Neil's been building venture-backed startups since he graduated with a CS degree from MIT in the 90s in the crypto space. He was the original founder of Block Native, which he's still on the board of now. And so we got to work with some amazing founders there. And as I sort of saw everything happening with Web3, what was really clear was like, oh, everything we were sort of talking about with the democratization of community and content, all these things, that's now being supercharged because there's all these incentivization layers. There's all these ways to actually give your audience ownership in a whole new way. I just started to get really interested in that layer. And the more Neil and I sort of talked, we really talked about how chat apps are usually this onboarding for new technologies. And they're really this new way for people to actually get introduced to technology. And the example I always give is like AIM was the first time I started actually regularly using the internet because it was the first time that I could chat with 20 friends at the same time. And then I started to use the internet for other things. I was like, well, we're at right now, like we're really early in Web3. We're really, really early. And we have these brand new digital identities, these communities that we're a part of, the NFTs that we own, who we associate with. It's like, there's how do we create a place for friends and just so friends to be able to interact and transact and hang out together? And that's really where sort of the idea came from. So my background is much more from sort of that much more classic sort of Web2 content creation, sort of digital identity sort of space. And then Neil is much more sort of the company builder. He's done a lot of different types of companies. And then Pac, you want to give a little bit more of your background?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been involved in cryptocurrency and I guess what's shifting into Web3 for close to a decade now. So I've been in for 9 years as an investor originally, and then eventually coming in as actually building on some different chains. So I bounce around between Ethereum, Avalanche, Polygon, pretty much everywhere that has had at least a decent dev following, and you could stand up some awesome projects. And then on my home here on Solana. So happy to be working with these guys. Extremely ecstatic to be surrounded by just awesome guys that are just so intelligent.
That's amazing. So it sounds like from the answer, the blockchain came first, and then the messaging app. You felt the two kind of married up really well.
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it back.
Yeah. I'm just, for me personally, so enticed by NFT technology. I don't know if you guys were around for DeFi Summer a couple years ago, but it feels like right now we're in that technology layer while we're still waiting for the applications to come along. And the applications for NFT technology are just so broad. Like there's just so many different ways that this is going to be in every single facet of life. So messaging and the extension of a messaging app to answer the question is something I kind of fell into when myself, Adam, and Neil were jawing on conversations and ideating before it actually became a thing.
And this might be one of Steve's questions. That seems a good time to ask. How did you guys meet?
Yeah. So
Adam found me on the internet.
Yeah.
Weird. We all met on the internet too.
Yeah.
Neil and I had been talking for a bit about this idea of what this could sort of all become. And one of our sort of founding creator advisors and like a core part of the business is this the guy Peter Hollins. Peter is an OG YouTuber, has sort of millions of followers, and he was like, "You got to talk to this guy, Pack. Like he just gets it." And we started talking, and we had a conversation, and we just like Neil was on the call, so we all just like hit it off really quickly. It was clear we were all talking the same language, and this was right around the time of Breakpoint Lisbon. And so we're like, well, I was sort of like, I wasn't really planning to go, but like, oh, maybe we might go to Lisbon. Pac was like, hey, I'm holding a dinner. If you guys come, you guys are more than welcome to come. I'll show you around. And then that night I was talking to Neil. I was like, I actually think it sounds crazy, but I should probably go there. So I was 24 hours later, I was in Lisbon and I met with Pac there. And that's really, really all like started to come together where we just actually got some in-person time. And we're like, oh, wow, we see the vision together. And, yeah, so it started online there, and I think what I love about this team is like we sort of span Web 2 and Web 3 in a really fun way. Our head of creative as well, he's been in ETH like NFTs for a long time, as sort of early in the ecosystem, but he also really understands brand identity and that type of stuff. And so I think there's a ton of lessons that sort of come from the Web 2 world and Web 2 social, but you also have to really understand Web 3 and where things are going. And I'm big fan of our team because I get to work with them every day and they're a blast.
That's awesome. So here's my problem with Web3. I don't think anyone's properly defined it yet, right? That includes all the billionaires out there.
Oh, we're defining it as we go, 100%. Yeah, no, it's very much this sort of like, I think this very vague word that sort of gets us slowly coming together. But no, it's very much it's an evolution. It's sort of the fun part about it a little bit. But there's definitely the buzzword aspect of it where people just sort of throw it out and no one's entirely sure what we're talking about.
Yep, agreed.
I think I could define it pretty well.
All right, yeah, please help us out.
So Web3 as a concept comes from the idea of Web 1 and Web 2.
Yep.
So Web 1 is the idea of originally we had the ability to come online on the internet and people could write something to you, but you couldn't write back, right? So think of a newspaper. You would just open that up and you would be able to read, but there wasn't any layer to actually communicate. So Web 2 is the idea where creators can then come on and be the newspaper, right? So you're able to be the content creator and the content receiver and have a communication layer between the two of you. Web3 allows you to actually own that newspaper and have actual ownership in the content creators and the people that are creating these protocols. So think like HTTPS, if you could have owned that 40 years ago.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Steve, I'll pass.
I love Joe because he can give succinct answers to these large ideas, and it's very helpful at many different times.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the backgrounds. It's pretty interesting, and the definition of Web3. I love hearing it from different people. Vic, do you want to kick off some of your questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
So how are you guys going to differentiate from like previous messaging apps? So I know you guys are in the same space. You're trying to target like WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal, Kick Messenger on Kin, which are all kind of like that peer-to-peer space.
So I think we take a lot of inspiration from those apps, but fundamentally it sort of starts with the foundation, which is this idea of building natively for Web3. So with Message Party, you don't log in with an email or phone number, you log in with your wallet. And because of that, it enables, you're shifting the foundation of where you're building. It enables all functionality. So the type of thing of like, Twitter, for instance, just, put out, verified PFPs, like that's awesome, but that's like you're bolting on Web3 there. You're really limited in the things you can do there. If you actually start with Web3 and sort of crypto and build from the wallet, you can do a lot more. So for instance, you log in with your wallet And because of that, immediately you can start to put together a curated gallery view of your favorite NFTs, and we can start to show things like, hey, like what are your diamond hands? What are the things that you OG minted? What are the types of things you're really proud of you want to show? You can start to do things like set up an activity feed for your friends. And there's privacy layers to all these things, right? We're really thoughtful about that, but see what your friends are buying, see what they're selling. And it's all seamless. It's not like this, like, oh, we have to wait 6 months to be able to sort of bolt this on. We can start to do that immediately. And those are initial features, but you can start to see like, well, what if I don't want to group my friends based off their name? What if I want to group them based off like the NFT project we belong to, right? What if I want to see, everyone who's a jungle cat in my chat right now and be able to actually search by that? What if I want to open up my messages to verify, soul dog owners and that type of stuff? Like, you almost just think differently. And so because you're sort of starting with a different foundation, what you enable opens up dramatically. And so that is like the sort of core thesis of the app. Now, there's this additional layer, and you sort of maybe hear us talk about online or in Discord, this idea of expression packs. And this is, I think, where we try to take it sort of a step further, where we sort of start to see all these communities, and they have this amazing IP, and this amazing brand, and everyone wants to take their community with them. And there's sort of this question like, well, how do we enable that? And we started thinking about all the different ways that people express themselves online right now. Emojis, animations, stickers, GIFs, AR filters. Like, well, what if we put those on the blockchain and we give communities the ability to actually customize their own versions of them? And we have them as expression packs, and they're enabled within the app. So as an example, if you're a jungle cat owner, right? It's like, well, what if you have the jungle cat expression pack, and that opens up jungle cat skins and emojis and stickers and all these things, and you can now actually use them within the app, but it's still an NFT, so it's still tradable, right? So you can still scarcity involved, and so you can have like a lion roar across the screen. Like, whoa, where'd you get that? It's like, oh, that was actually like a 1 of 500 that jungle cats dropped for like the OG minters like 6 months ago, and now it's trading a higher value. And you can start to see where you actually built this ecosystem. And so that's an example. Expression Pact we're excited about, but that's just like one of many things we can roll out. And that's all possible, again, because you start with a wallet. And so this different starting point now enables you to build all these features. And what's awesome about our community now is we got this amazing feedback from our community about what we should prioritize, right? What they're interested in, the types of things that they want to see. We now just get to build that much faster. So I think, as we like to sort of say, it's like we get to we're building where a lot of these larger native platforms are trying to go. And because we're building from it natively, we can just move much faster and serve our users much better.
Can I follow up with that with
Please.
another question? So I see a lot of people in chat asking it, and I had one further on, but you brought it up. So you said to connect into the app, you log in with your wallet, correct?
Correct.
All right. So with that being said, from my understanding of the research that I've done, is that this isn't technically all fully on the blockchain, right? Because if we're sending messages and everything, it's not fully on the blockchain. There's going to be transaction fees for every message. What security do you have in place for somebody to just come hack into your servers outside of the blockchain and just steal my wallet information, NFTs that are in my wallet because I gave you permission?
Adam,
Sure.
Oh, sorry. You can go ahead.
Go. No, go for it back.
Sure. So the wallet itself is actually going to be mainly read-only. So you're not going to actually have to transact on the back end to allow somebody to come into your wallet, let alone us.
Okay.
Additionally, during the POC, you don't have to, obviously, we're not going to be able to implement all these things, but the things we want to do in the future are end-to-end encryption. That one's going to be a very early one because that's just a necessary at this point in age. But also we're going to be having federated databases and decentralized servers in the future. Not currently, but that's where we want to go. In order to make sure that, one, we're not able to be shut down. Two, we don't have your phone number or email, and you have encrypted messages, so we're not going to be able to pull that data on you. And three, we're only using read-only technology on the wallet itself.
Yeah, I think the core part there of it's not hot wallets. So it's really you're simply just enabling us to actually see what's inside of it and sort of reading it, and that enables all this fantastic functionality. But that doesn't mean that anyone can just sort of go in and take your shit. It just means like it's cool. We get to use this now to actually create a better experience, but it's not a hot wallet.
For sure. Now, with the encrypted messages, Wuhan, I know you had a message for that with the encryption. I don't know if you want to touch base on that real fast.
Yeah, I mean, the whole end-to-end encryption thing is important, and it opens up a whole can of worms in terms of legislation, divulging chats, etc., to the authorities. If you have the end-to-end encryption, of course, you can just say, sorry, we don't have any access to the actual underlying chat. So at the moment, what sort of encryption do you have on the chat, if any? And what is your kind of aim in terms of like legal issues? I mean, for example, Apple, if someone goes to Apple and says, listen, we want someone's iPhone, can you crack it for us, whatever, they'll say, sorry, even we don't have access to it. We haven't got a backdoor. So is that going to be your approach?
Yeah, so that's definitely where we want to be. Full transparency, we're still very much in the alpha. Everything is scattered around the parking lot, and we have the pieces, but they haven't really been put together yet. So we're right now, we're able to walk people through the different pieces of the app and get feedback in order to build it better. But we're nowhere near the point where we're starting to talk about, do we have backdoors, but no intention to build those in. We want to be able to throw our hands up and say, even if we wanted to, we could.
Okay.
Worth going off that, all the technology we're using right now enables end-to-end encryption, because a lot of that has been built in pretty standard for chat. And I think to your point around sort of the ethos of what we want to build towards, absolutely towards this idea of I think in order to have this sort of type of messaging app, it needs to be able to be owned by the users, right? I think very much we would say hey, I'm sorry, we don't control their messages. That's not really what we're about, and we can't really necessarily give you access to that because we don't have access to that. I don't necessarily even think that is a feature. I think that's sort of table stakes in this day and age. I think that's sort of what people expect from a messaging app in that at this sort of day and age. And so I think that's what we sort of the same way as well. Now there's a difference between end-to-end encryption versus then this idea of sort of federated databases and full decentralization. And that's where we want to build toward. From a technical perspective, that's a much different conversation, a much bigger lift. But it's starting with this idea of end-to-end encryption, not actually building in backdoors and that type of stuff. I think that's sort of table stakes for where things are at right now. And I think it's sort of hard to do a whole lot sort of different than that.
So in terms of moderating, obviously you're going to get malicious users, people that are up to no good using a messaging app. What sort of process or what sort of ideas do you have around moderating the chat or stepping in when banning people, all that type of stuff? Do you have a team there that's ready to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth sort of talking about the rollout a little bit, because I think that sort of plays a big picture. And sort of in the large scale, we're going to have the same issues that any messaging app has, right? And you're absolutely going to need a team. You actually have to have those moderators. We're really, really thoughtful about how we sort of think about the rollout of this app. And we're thoughtful for a few different reasons. One is we want to ensure that the features that we think that our users are going to love, that they actually love. So we have sort of this constant feedback cycle set up. But also for things like this, we want to be able to get test runs at this before at sort of millions of users. So how we sort of think about this is, as Joe sort of mentioned, Neil is right now sort of rolling out the alpha, and we have sort of testers in our Discord that will sort of be those initial alpha users. It's sort of a one-on-one experience to get them onboarded. The individuals that mint our NFT, they're the first private beta users of our app. That's going to be sort of several thousand people. Then as we sort of think about integrating these communities, with essentially giving them these expression packs and these new ways to come on board, that gives us the ability to add sort of concentric circles of users at thousands at a time. So what that enables is, one, you're sort of cutting down at the cold start issue, because you're actually adding users that already sort of know one another, but you're also enabling yourself to actually have a lot more data and be able to run a lot more refs to continue to sort of optimize the app as you're sort of bringing these users on. And so from that perspective, it's there's going to be a lot of questions that pop like this, right? And we're going to have to deal with all the issues that any sort of major chat app deals with in terms of malicious users, in terms of bad actors and that type of stuff. And it's you sort of take them one at a time. But I think the reason that we're building sort of fast and slow, as I like to say, we got started in November, right? This thing we've been cooking by all perspective. At the same time, we also want to make sure that we're sort of nailing the right things. And so that's sort of we sort of try to think about the process like that.
I think there's a clear distinction here. We're targeting one-to-one and one-to-few chat to start. So it'd be like if you were just texting your buddy. You don't have a moderator in there. The idea is you're already talking to somebody who's a friend, and we want to nail those small circles of friends first.
Okay. So, sorry, Steve, just touching on this then. You guys started in November. That's amazing. How far you've got.
Yeah.
I understand it's only a PC app at the moment, or
correct. Yeah. So roadmap. Yeah. In terms of we're starting out as a web app only. Not long. We very much intend to be a mobile app, but for our alpha version, our beta version, starting with web and then starting to sort of build in parallel mobile. Thought process there, so we can just it's crypto and Web3 is sort of this funny space where there's actually a lot of people that still use web simply because Discord and sort of all these other things. And so we want to get a lot of, again, we're very much you have to make sure you're building for the user, make sure you're getting those features right. And so it's cool. It's a lot easier and a lot more efficient to get that started up on web and then say, cool, what are all the hero features we know we need to add, and then build out a mobile app rather than start with mobile right away. So we're starting with the web app and then building towards mobile.
So I'm a cynic by nature. I mean, I work in tech security, so I don't trust anyone. So don't take this next question the wrong way. But I mean, on your FAQ, you state that our first step is to deliver a product that provides value, and we want to avoid offering a token for the sake of it.
Yep.
But you haven't yet got like a mobile app, or you haven't got far down that journey yet, and you're already offering an NFT. That kind of didn't sit well with me.
Yeah. So let's talk about like the reason that we're sort of offering this. Central to this is this idea of building, I think, a community and actually building with our community, right? And this idea that like we would really like to actually be able to have participation from folks that want to build the future of sort of Web3 chats, right? The old way of building companies, you sort of build it, you get your users, you try to test it, go back and forth. Like, well, community is a superpower. That's sort of the basis of this app as well. We grow by providing values to communities, enabling people to actually interact in new ways, and actually this cross-pollination of communities. We should have our own. And if we're going to be doing that, then we should actually be like the best way to do that is to feel like they actually have some type of sort of ownership in this, in the sense of being able to sort of like buy into this, but also the ability to get rewarded for that. And so we said, well, let's do our own mint. And those are the people that actually get access to the private beta. Those are the people that we're talking to every day when we're thinking about like, hey, what features should we build out? Hey, do you like this or do you like this instead? And actually have an open conversation with our community. Right. And so when we think about that, like we have we have our community members and we're sort of doing this mint. And a big part of this business is also this idea of rolling out expressions in the same way that these expression pack NFTs, the same way that Line, right, the sort of Asian messaging app, has their entire sticker economy. They do $200 million a year in stickers, right? It's like, well, cool. How much cooler is that if the communities actually get to reap a lot of that revenue and artists as well, and you actually have that being the whole ecosystem? And so our NFT offering, we really view as like, that's nothing more than we really want to build up our initial community and really be able to have like a back and forth conversation, sort of the foundation of our core users there.
So I get that, right? I mean, I'd argue that communities are existed before NFTs as well and token drops, but
sure.
I get the fact that you want to have nothing is free. You want to have some funding raised, and at the same time, you can also get people to buy into the product and feel like they're the part owners of the product. So I totally get that, and that does make sense.
It's always tricky, right, with these things in terms of like, I think a big reason that we say what we said about the token is because a lot of folks immediately asked when we were originally doing this, like, oh, you're gonna have a token, how's it gonna be involved? And we're like, there's plenty of applications for a token in this. What we really didn't want to do though is sell people on some sort of gas streams around a token and have there be a ton of speculation and all these things and not deliver any product. Right. Like we're really like, we try to be really transparent with our roadmap, where we're at and all these things for that reason. Because I think there's a lot of people that sell a really big vision, do a big token raise, and then you get nothing. We're like, we really don't want to do that. We want to be as transparent as possible and use this to build. And that's where we're like, with an NFT community, you can limit it, right? We're doing 5,555 mints to our community. They get, like all whitelisted, trying to be really mindful of that. That to us feels like cool. We can build with that. And the idea of doing a token now just feels like, no, that's all speculation. We don't want to go down that road until we have something where it's like, okay, no, this actually makes a ton of sense. Like you see exactly how this gets implemented, but you sort of have to start with utility, then add that on versus vice versa.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Now, when you said with the NFTs, right, I just want to touch base one last time on that. You said have a revenue stream for the community. So will there be rewards for owning the NFT? And what would those rewards be?
Yeah, I mean, like, so we were talking about this today. So like we talked about this as well. Our beta owners get our alpha and beta for the original expression packs. Right, they get these types of things. Joe, you were talking about playing League of Legends today and how a lot of those skins now are worth quite a bit of money. But we sort of you can sort of go on your sort of tangent about that. But we sort of see the same way, which is like the original owners get not only private beta access, we're building with them. They get these initial NFTs that we're dropping that actually have functionality within the app. All those NFTs, they're tradable on the open ecosystem. If you want to use them in the app, terrific. If you want to sell to someone else, that's your choice. That's not up for us to decide. But so there's going to be those NFTs and additional NFT drops that go to those initial owners, right? And like those they should be continue to be rewarded sort of with that. And so it's like we try to base around things that both provide utility and have value because they have utility. And so that's what we're sort of building out with those initial expression drops, right? And as we sort of think about like in the future, should we decide to do anything with Ethereum in that regards, like, yeah, we'd certainly want to reward the people that took a bet on us first. We're not making any promises right now as to what that is because we don't want to overpromise. But and what we know right now is like, you know, they're going to be getting those initial NFT drops and our NFT drops in the future, and because they provide value and they provide utility.
I just want to chime in there really
Yeah.
quick to make an important distinction.
For sure.
I think we're all fully aware of NFT projects that promise a token right at the start, and we're going to have DeFi, and you're going to be able to stake it. And then you watch those as soon as like, oh, the token's coming, and it runs, you know, it booms up 5x, and then a bunch of people buy it at the top, and the next thing they know, they're down 80%. Like, there's a fine line between rewarding the community that has helped you build an app and incentivizing speculation within your community. And we don't want to be on the wrong side of that line. We want to make sure that the people that are building with us, if we decide to do a token, and I think I speak for all of us that it's something that we want to do, in the future, if those people have stuck around and maybe it's based on something on activity on the app and feedback that you provide, and it's actually a scalable thing, and maybe you can stake your NFT in. There's a lot of different ways to go with it, but we don't want the pure reason that you're buying our NFT is to get our token at a later date.
Gotcha.
So is there going to be like transparency on how the funds might be used, you know, from the sale of the token, etc.? Is that
Well, the
and-
NFT.
And I'm sorry if it hasn't felt fairly transparent if you guys are involved in the community, because I've said it a few times, but actively in chat. But we've been waiting so we're closing a funding round right now as well. So it's not only the NFT, we're also taking on funds to build this as well. And the NFT funds are going to go directly into development. So we're hiring 4 engineers, head of engineer, and a UI UX guy for the front end right now.
Or girl, or they, but
Or
yes,
girl,
exactly.
or girl.
We are exactly. So just to sort of talk about, because I think it's important to be transparent about funding as well. So yeah, so first and foremost, yeah, this is definitely we view this as a capital raise, right? As far as like for the use of proceeds, where those proceeds going, and just how we think about from a company, really sort of 2 different areas, and they're sort of indicative of what the company is. The first is obviously product, right? Neil has been CTO, he's been a CEO, he's building out our sort of tech team, and to date he's been overseeing sort of a little army of contractors, because partially we want to sort of understand what the scope of the project was really going to be and what the use case was going to be, and then cool, now that we have a brand and we have some money, the ability to hire goes up a lot more. And if there's anyone in the audience sort of interested, we're absolutely actively hiring for a lot of different roles right now. We sort of view product, right, in terms of like we have to move really fast. This isn't our mode is not going to be around the idea that you can like link a wallet and message people. The mode's going to be around experience. It's going to be much more around like the types of functionality we have, and honestly, it's going to be a lot more around brand and expression. There's sort of these 2 different modes, and so we have to move really quickly with the product. I'm thrilled that, you know, one of our co-founders is someone that has can scale a team really quickly and has sort of been on that train before. The other side of things is much more around what we call message party studios, which is really the creative arm of the business. So, you know, we're doing this mint, and this is sort of the first mint that we're doing. We don't have intentions, you know, to do a ton of like, you know, massive several sold mints. This is sort of the beta, but everything with expression packs, that's a huge amount of art, because we're pumping out our own art in our own worlds. We're also partnering with these communities, partnering with brands, and so like we need a little army on that side as well. And so our thought process is like, cool, that like we know the people we have to go out and hire. We know that because the lot's 45 days of work, whereas if we tried to do this 45 days ago, it wouldn't have worked well. And so we're doing both we have our NFT raise coming in, and then listen, I come from sort of the investor world. Neil's built venture-backed startups. We're really mindful of the types of investors that we have in our cap table. And so we were really mindful of this idea of like, we should get folks from the Web3 community, right? And so we're announcing it soon, but not quite yet. But everyone on our cap table, there are a lot of big names, especially within the Solana ecosystem, because our idea is like Web3 companies are built from the community. So we want to have people understand the ecosystem. So we have a lot of angels that are involved from that ecosystem. And then any of the smaller funds that are involved, they're all generally Web3 native, or they really understand consumer social. And it's like they can really help us sort of build this thing. And so we think it's important to be able to sort of like have the capital that you need to really provide users the experience that they deserve and want. And so we're getting it from sort of multiple areas with the plan of like, let's grow as fast as possible. You know, like everything we did from November to now, we have to sort of couple X that in the next couple of months. And like, this is how we're doing it.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. Vic, you
Yeah,
wanna-
I was gonna say if we could just circle back to you're saying the wallet initially is going to be read only, and you guys are really focused on community, but I'm sure you guys have been aware you're in the crypto NFT space. You've heard about all the Bored Ape Yacht Club, the cool cats that have been getting sniped out of wallets for previous listing prices on OpenSea. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but there's been a bunch of fairly big blue chip NFTs recently that have been being purchased for previous listed prices on market, basically getting bought for like say like 0.77 ETH for a 98 ETH NFT. And part of the issue around that,
Sorry.
yeah,
I just wanted to say I'm aware of it, but not from a technical level why it's happening.
yeah, well, we actually figured it out about a month ago. One of the guys in our chat is actually a Bored Ape Yacht Club owner who was the first person that had it happen to. And we actually tracked down the blockchain and figured out how it was happening within a flaw in the OpenSea contracts. But what this kind of leverages into is your app with a wallet and a messenger where people can actually do private sales that can try and avoid having to list on these open exchanges where there is really no control and they really don't care. We brought up this issue to OpenSea and Rarible over a month ago, and it took them till now to do something after that hundreds of thousands of dollars in NFTs had basically been stolen. So one of the things we'd really like to see in a product like this is peer-to-peer direct sales with some kind of trusted trade window, right? Because lots of the issues that people have over and over is people gaming the system and trying to act maliciously in the space to get access to these very valuable pieces of art.
So it's funny that you bring that up because I talk about this idea of building with our community, right? We do a lot of product surveys, get tremendous response, and so it's actually like our N is relatively high on them, and we sort of brought up this idea, the idea of being able to trade, or the idea of being able to, right, so trade meaning swap or purchase, right, back and forth, was something we sort of had in the back of our minds. Like anytime you're aggregating a large number of NFT users, like that's obviously something that like could be interesting to them. We were actually blown away by the number of people that were actually particularly interested, especially in trading, like swapping and that type of stuff. But it was because this idea that's peer to peer and also with a trusted network. So the idea of if you're on with your friends, you already sort of know these people, and you're also looking through their wallets, what they curate. It sets up this sort of ecosystem for that. And so it's not in our, like our as we sort of said, our alpha and our beta has no sort of trading involved. As we sort of think about where can Message Party go, a big part about what we think about is that idea of like, well, if you want to swap, like right now, people are doing that. Like when we ask our users, like, no, I just sort of like send them an NFT and they send them mine. Like there's no escrow involved. There's none of this involved. It's like, oh no, you could like, what does it look like when you actually do this the right way and actually get everything set up sort of the right way so that you can actually have secure peer-to-peer trading, but it's also in context. I think that's sort of important. So it's sort of like you can actually just sort of amongst your friends, peer-to-peer, have a lot of communication. If on the back end you actually have the secure technology to be able to pull that off, it's like that alone is a massive company. But I think what it sort of speaks to, again, so actually going back to the very initial question, this idea of like, how do we sort of different from like a WhatsApp or those types of things, like those are the types of things that we can consider on our roadmap and be like, cool, where do we want to prioritize it? How do we want to build for it? How are we going to build it securely? That's really difficult to do if you don't start with native Web3 functionality. If you sort of don't start with the wallet, it's really hard to sort of get there. And so we definitely think about that as it's sort of exciting. As you mentioned, though, for all these things, the key is to sort of do it right. So you're not essentially just enabling malicious actors to exploit sort of technology or loopholes and steal this art.
Well, I mean, even on the platforms like OpenSea and Rarible, what you often see too is we haven't actually coined a term for it yet, but where you'll agree to buy an NFT and as the sale is going through, because of the delay in the OpenSea API, they'll change the price as you're going through the buy window, and because you're signing the contract, but your UI hasn't updated, the price will actually change, and sometimes they'll change it by a decimal point. So rather than buying, say, an NFT for 0.1, all of a sudden it's 1 ETH.
Yeah, that's called front running.
Yeah.
It's happened a lot with DeFi as well.
So
people build bots for that specifically.
Yep.
Yeah. They
So
front run the gas.
I think one of the really awesome benefits with building in public and building with the community is if our community comes and says, hey, this is what we want, we can go that way. Like we're very nimble, we're very lean, and we have definite milestones on our roadmap. We also have we're taking these surveys, and if you guys tell me that you want me to build that, I'm going there. If I get an 80% vote on, hey, this is the next step, we're tilting the boat, me and Adam,
Well, the two other things I would say that kind of, well, the other thing I don't know if you're aware, but like Signal messaging app just did a soft rollout in early January where they now support direct crypto exchange in their app through MobileCoin, which is private and secure, and you do not need an address. You can directly send it to any of your contacts that have the beta enabled. It kind of went under the radar. No one really noticed it. But the other thing we'd really like to see out of an app like what you're proposing is like, so like a month ago when we discovered this exploit in the OpenSea API, we had no way to reach the Bored Ape Yacht community or the Mutant Ape Yacht community and tell them about this and protect themselves because none of us natively owned one. We only had one member, our friend that's in the chat, but he was kind of black sheeped early on in the community because he had said some things out of turn in one of the chats about one of the main people. So he wasn't exactly being listened to the way he should have. And it took a month later and all these people losing a bunch of NFTs and like, oh my God, what you're saying was true. Like you weren't just bullshitting us. So to have a message app where you could actually message the whole community and be like, hey, this is an issue. This is why it's an issue. Like here's a solution would be a game changer in this space to actually be able to message like a community of people that all hold, say, a Bored Ape Yacht Club or a Soul Dog or Yoku.
Totally. There's also, I think, that component of like we talk about this a lot, right? This ability of being able to get in touch with wallet addresses. And it's interesting because you could also see where that could be ripe for spam or ripe for
Malicious.
sort of like, malicious actors as well. So you have to be really thoughtful about how you sort of roll that out. But that said, like even the types of things we're seeing on surveys where it's like, the ability to actually mesh, because a lot of people are also interested in obviously in selling to people who are interested in these types of things. So the ability also to have it be like open to like who gets to message me and set those privacy settings. Like we want to give users the control of that. So like if you want to only do wall-to-wall handshakes and stay anonymous and only talk to select few people, do that. If you want to open this up to, hey, these are the people from these communities, they can contact me, do that. One option we've been considering that we sort of talked about to our communities that joked was like, hey, if you want to like set it so like you can accept a certain amount to read a message, then you can do that as well. But it's like I think it's these really interesting product conversations, like how do you prevent malicious actors and prevent spam and all these types of things, while also enabling people to actually talk to one another in a real way.
Adam, really cool feature idea before it falls out of my mind, just having this conversation. If we had like an Amber Alert feature service in the app,
Exactly.
like, it could only come from Message Party. And it's something similar to this big problem.
Yeah, I actually love that.
Used in high emergency situations.
Now, with that though, if you're using that, you would have to, if you're going with the Amber Alert thing, that uses location services.
Right. This would be like
just for the NFT collection.
Yeah, like community based. Like if something's happening with Bored Ape Yacht Club like that, it's just pinging those individuals specifically. Like, hey, this is a security flaw. You should be delisting or XYZ.
I love it. We take 10% commish, okay?
It happened on the stream. We take 10%.
We take 10% commish, okay? Cheese Strokes is our manager for it.
It's a long running joke, or one of our community members. It's his long running joke that if you trade off one of his trades, he'll take 10% commish.
Listen, that's only fair if you have a couple X in there. That's easy. I'm happy.
Perfect. Let's just keep bowling and rolling because we do have a lot of questions. We kind of got stuck up on a couple, so I don't want to keep you guys super long because we could sit here for 24 hours a day like we normally do. So, Vic, you want to like move on to a couple more that you have written down?
Well, I have a couple more technical ones. Like, I know a couple people in the community were curious, like, what language are you guys actually developing on? Are you guys using Solidity, or like, what are you actually building the back end of this on? Like, what languages are you guys looking to solve these big problems?
Yeah, right now we're building on React Native and just building like we're taking this on sort of like our POC is on Heroku. We're using React Native. We're building from there. I think we're looking at a lot of different options right now because a big part of again like what this was helpful for was like answering a lot of questions in terms of like what we were really thinking from an architectural standpoint, because like there's a lot of really meaty architectural standpoint like questions that sort of come up. And so our goal was like, let's spin up essentially spin up a POC as fast as possible to be able to get a lot of these user insights and get this in there. And then we can start, like the reason we're sort of doing an engineering blitz right now is to be able to sort of be able to sort of answer a lot of this. So sort of standard sort of MERN stack, and then looking at like, hey, what are the options from there for scalability.
Additionally, our CTO, or I guess he's cross-functioning CTO, COO is not with us right now. So the more technical back-end answers we don't currently have.
Okay, that's fair. Well, it's kind of technical. So have you guys actually come up with a process as of yet to link your on-chain information with off-chain messaging yet? Like, have you actually figured out that like crucial bit in the actual service, or are you still working out the nuts and bolts of it?
You're talking about just like link a phantom wallet and then be able to actually just like message each other back and forth and that type, like
Yeah.
that those we internal alpha we have played. Yes, that is complete. Yeah. The things that we have built out and the things that are going to be in our alpha are the ability to log with your wallet, be able to actually have a gallery view, to be able to message other people, and that activity feed to be able to see what the people that you sort of follow are actually rolling from there. With our alpha version, we're actually having it so it's like anyone in that alpha test essentially can message one another. That's why we have a group of 100. It's all in a private Discord right now to sort of get to know each other. And the reason being, we want to test a lot of those user behavior when the ability to see other people's wallet. Even the question of what wallet do you use when you're using Message Party, right? Because eventually we want to be able to link multiple wallets together. And it's possible, but sort of this idea of like it's an intimate experience. And so that is sort of like the core of our alpha version. So yes, all that functionality is done.
So in the future, you're looking to expand to custodial wallets. So I know, like I did your survey there, and you asked kind of like what change you're on and how do you use your wallets, and I could have written like 3 paragraphs of how I use like I'm on like 8 different chains. Each chain has multiple wallets. Then I also have custodial wallets. Like I have Trust Wallet on my phone that I keep with a bunch of coins in it, NFTs. Like it's just like the list goes on and on. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like you sort of see this thing where I think like the world is going to be cross-chain. You have to sort of plan for that, and so we can integrate a lot of different wallets. The custodial wallet conversation actually is much more around. There's an ease of use, but there's also this idea of like right now the total number of people that own NFTs is maybe a couple million, right? Like OpenSea posted data where like the revenue they were driven was like 1 million users. Like that's cool. How do you get those other 10 million, 100 million, billion people online? I don't think you do it by having a really arduous process to be able to get a wallet started. I think you do it by making it really seamless to get involved. And so we were sort of playing around with it. It was like, well, if we could come up with an elegant custodial wallet solution, which again, it's a big architectural and engineering lift there. If you could sort of do that seamlessly, what you actually start to create is actually like just this really seamless onboarding for people into Web3, in the sense of like, think about NBA Top Shot. Half the people that bought NBA Top Shot didn't know that was an NFT. I actually think that's genius, right? The ability to actually have something where like you get to participate in an ecosystem you may not even know because it's just the backend technology is sort of Web3. Well, if we had custodial wallet solution, we can give them expression packs. Now they get to talk to their friends who are more involved. They get to get sort of like their first foray is with friends in a closed ecosystem where it's safe, and they get to do that. It's like, well, that's really powerful. That's now we're getting to that equivalent of AIM being an onboarding for the internet. It's like, cool, just hop on. Like, hey, I don't know anything about crypto. Just hop on Message Party. Like, you get started, and then you can from there you can start to build your knowledge. But we sort of see the potential as being like onboarding, millions of people.
So have you guys looked at partnerships then with any of the custodial wallets or wallets in general for an onboarding process to kind of streamline that, like something that'll make it simplified for people to actually get access to Message Party through some type of wallet and explain like the whole seed phrase process?
One step at a time. So I think we're starting with people that have existing wallet. Like, right,
Yeah.
our immediate go to market is very much around people with existing wallets, and so like we're just hustling on this beta. But absolutely, like we could look at like I think have our eyes open in terms of like who are the custodial wallet providers. Also, what would it take to stand it up ourselves? Like there's a lot of really interesting wallet conversations. I think to start with, it would be like cool, especially as we're focusing on Solana. It's like you can start with Solana and Soulflare, and then you can sort of expand from there into sort of these different wallets. But eventually, you want it all in one. And there's a lot of really great companies out there that are actually building a lot of this functionality, right? There are people that are focusing on this, and so absolutely, like I think it's something that initially I think we sort of thought of as like down the line, and now what we're thinking is like we probably have to push that on the roadmap because the potential for that I think is too big, and even for you bring up a good point of like even people with existing people who have gone deep in this space, I think there's actually still tremendous value in just being able to have custodial wallet linked to Message Party.
There's also the consideration of one other thing that we've iterated through on our internal meetings is how do you recover an account with where you start with a wallet? Like, let's say you lose the wallet, do you lose all your contacts? And that's like something we started to talk through as well, and maybe doing like a fun twist on a multi-sig wallet where you can actually sign into another wallet to boot back up that previous one. There's a lot of little things that haven't really been explored yet, and we're definitely trying something very new here.
That's one of my questions. It beat me to it. It's like, do you offer any sort of backup or recovery mechanism?
Yeah, that's a technical question that we're like actively addressing. And there's some solutions we're coming to, like that idea that you could do a single sign with a multi-sig. But still very much addressing that question.
Right. So I know you guys are building on Solana because you really like the communities there, and you kind of have native to that ecosystem. But looking to the future, what's the next blockchain that you have your eyes on for expanding into?
Yeah, so like building on Solana, definitely like the communities there, definitely there, but also because everything we want to do about building out tons of NFTs and giving them to free to our community members or for low cost, like that's only like that's possible on Solana where it's not like something like ETH.
What, you don't want
But
to pay
it'd be
$100
beautiful.
gas fees?
You know, I would love to. I would more than anything else. This month's a little tough. Next month I'll be able to do it. But no, I think like the wallet functionality itself, right? The ability to link a wallet, read contents, do that type of stuff. That's relatively easy to cross change with, right? And so that's where it's like I think there's a lot like even from our user surveys, like I think it's primarily Ethereum and Polygon, or right, sort of the sort of obvious sort of next and going from there. And then it gets really interesting when you start to think about sort of expression packs from that capacity in terms of, right, are we only dropping expression packs in Solana and doing that with, or do we have custodial wallets so people can hold them on message party? Do we just do Ethereum-based expression packs? It gets really pricey for our users. It's probably not the best way to do it, but we sort of view like very much want to go cross-chain relatively quickly. I think we sort of view Solana as like great community to get started with, great community to sort of build on, also great place to be able to sort of like test everything out and be like, cool, now we just let's go gobble up other chains, let's go to Ethereum and know that the functionality that we're pushing to users is functionality that people really enjoy and want to use and can sort of like move from there, because ultimately we have to be representing multiple chains or else just the value of the platform loses. The platform uses a ton of utility because most people exist sort of cross chain, so we have to as well.
So you say you want to use it cross chain, and that's a great goal. Are you going to be on chain? What are you going to have on chain exactly? What's the aim?
So when I say cross chain on a very basic level, I just mean the ability to actually onboard with Ethereum based wallets or Polygon based wallets, not necessarily like on chain messaging or anything like that. So simply just the idea that like basic level, yeah, people hold NFTs on different wallets of different chains, and the ability to actually integrate that type of stuff and that information into our app so people can use it more.
I don't want to speak for the entire team's position. But my personal opinion is messages on chain are cumbersome and very unlikely. Whereas you have a solution where we're targeting one-to-one, one-to-few communication. It's already peer-to-peer. We're targeting encrypted-based messages, decentralized servers, and federated databases. I don't know how much, like, obviously the next step there is on chain, but I don't think it's necessary to take that step personally.
So you have, I think it was Jabber that was announced in Solana, in the Solana convention happened lately, which is on Solana, on the chain, and is a messaging app as well. I don't know. I don't know what the value is of having something on chain when it comes to messaging app, but they've clearly gone in that direction. It'll be interesting to see what happens in that space.
I think it's fair to say there's a subsection of folks involved in the community that like they do want on-chain. They really want it to be like they want super secure. They want anonymity. Want sort of hardcore. It's like awesome. You go do that. There's a business there for sure. It's not what we're building. We're much more around this idea of being actually like, what is the a little bit more ephemeral, like what does the extension of your Web3 identity look like, and how do you communicate with this new identity, and how do you actually get utility by being able to use this and talk to people in new places. And so because of that, it's not on chain, and we sort of give up some of that decentralization, and we give up some of that sort of those sort of folks there. But I also think like I love that Jabber is doing what they're doing. Like I think like there is a business there. We're not the people to build that. That's not what we're building. But I think like people are gonna there's a user base there, and I think they can super serve those users. I think a big part of this is like if you think about Web 2 messaging and chat apps, it wasn't winner take all. there are different niche populations that want to use different things. And so if we think about like, and this usually across the spectrum, right? On one end, you sort of have the mass messaging apps that are meant for tens of thousands of people. Discord is a great example, right? That's much more community functionality. The UI UX you're building out, the functionality you're building out, fundamentally different than say a Snapchat, which in some ways is actually really just a personal chat app. You're using a camera. It's ephemeral messaging. That was their big thing, right? And then you sort of have Telegram and WhatsApp, all these things. All to sort of say like, we're going to see the same thing in Web3. We're already seeing the same thing in Web3. And what I think is great about that is it's sort of like a rising tide raises all ships, right? Like we all sort of win there because it actually just enables us to do more in this space. I think we're really focused on is like creating personal spaces for friends to be able to have better conversations, better communication. That means the functionality that we're building out gives you more insights into your friends. It means that you actually can the things that you're talking about are automated, like if minting it like if you're minting somewhere, you can see when your friends are doing that. It means that you get to bring your communities with you. Those are this sort of identity layer of what we're really focused on. But like there's gonna be I'm really excited to see. Like I love what like MetaLink is building, for example. Like that's awesome. They're like this really cool Discord kill. I think what Jabber's building out is I think what Signal's building, like it's all really cool. I actually think they're all like fantastic. So I'm actually like, it's sort of a genuine like I'm just really excited for what's happening with communication in Web3 because I think it's holding back wide adoption. And as we sort of go from early adopters to early majority, a communication layer is sort of essential.
So now I know you guys have talked a lot about developing expression packs and having this community focus. There's been a big push in the NFT scene in the last like 6 months with the generative AI art. Have you guys thought at all about having some kind of generative code or generative AI running for your message app to actually have expression packs interact with one another? Like say like I have a soul dog and you have a jungle cat, and actually having those NFTs interact with one another. Like one of the ideas I had, I know you're talking at the moment just peer to peer, direct person to person, but say in the future we're having a group conversation, actually having our NFTs in a 3D sort of avatar in the background of the chat window interact based on the people that are communicating with one another. Like seeing those have like face-to-face conversations in the background.
We think of expression packs simply as sort of the onboarding ramp. So the short answer is like we think about these ideas a lot. And it's a question of what's possible to build, right? And where we want to do lifting, but there's so much fun things that you can do when it comes to NFTs in this space, because even the ability to have like, the four of us are the only people with our cameras on right now.
Yep.
Well, what if you could actually like the ability to have, okay, can we actually just take the 3D models of certain communities, avatars, and be able to express yourself in that? So at least you can have conversation, express yourself like that. Can you actually have the ability to enable communicate? I get it. People want, yeah, exactly. Like that's not actually all that difficult to build out. And I thought you looked great there. Personally,
Thank you.
I thought you looked lovely.
I was gonna actually do the whole interview with the Smurf on, and I was like,
I'll pass. But so like I'll just sort of say, but there's also like fun things you can imagine. Like imagine if the longer you hold an NFT within Message Party, it actually like it changed, like there's mutability involved, right? So it actually starts to morph, and then you actually sort of gain value because it's actually like an extra rare there. Imagine like the types of things where you can actually have little parties with the NFTs that you're bringing to the actual space. There's so much fun stuff we can do there. We sort of like with expression packs, I think the goal is actually to sort of build out worlds and enable people to just have like a much more immersive experience. And so short answer is like 100%. There's some things off the shelf that we can sort of start to bring in. There's other things that are a little harder to build, but these are the types of things that we also get from our community, which is awesome. And I think just like the ability to get these communities just like a little bit more like ability to actually build out this sort of universe and have it be more immersive. That's really the goal. And that's why half the business is creative, right? Like Message Party Studios is literally half the business. The other side is much more product. And that's even our org structure. Like I'm CEO, but my real focus is, besides building, a kick-ass team and making sure, everything runs on time, is really focused on Message Party Studios. Neil is sort of, we like to call him the old man in the room. He's really focused on product and tech. So we're building that out, and they go hand in hand. And so like 100%, I think that we sort of talk about the metaverse. It's like, well, the first step of that is like be able to actually communicate with one another in that. And that's sort of what we want to start to sort of build out.
NFT is obviously a massive part of the messaging app. There are currently issues that a lot of exchanges and people are working through in terms of, is it a genuine NFT? Has someone minted it on another blockchain, for example? Have you guys thought about how you guys might tackle it? How you guys might verify that the NFT being presented or on message party is genuine and part of the original blockchain?
Short answer, not in depth, right? Like at this exact point, I think like there's a lot that there's a lot of different solutions you can probably come up with in terms of actually being able to just like we're reading publicly available information on a blockchain, and so like as you sort of stand up a node and sort of start to do that, like there are solutions. So I couldn't give you again like the sort of elegant solution for that type of thing, but I also think like I don't think it's an unsolvable problem per se. I think that like as you sort of start to see these things, I think in general, not just with this, but like what's exciting right now just in the startup space is a lot of these problems that have sort of plagued the industry for a while. Like you're just seeing companies start to specialize in this. Be like, this is what we do. Like we are the solve for this. You can plug this in. You can go from there. And so like whether we do it ourselves or whether we need to like implement other stuff, like other companies' platform for that, like given the fact that the beauty of the blockchain is that like we can verify and read all this information, I think like we will find we will have a solution for that. I'm not worried about that aspect of things.
Partnering with someone like Grape or Sluminati or something like that as a third-party verification.
Yeah, great. I mean, like we love Joe can talk about. We love the Grape guys as well. Like exactly a company like that. Like that's all they focus on. It's like cool. That's
right.
Like that could be a huge asset.
But the question or the answer to that question poses another question, which is the issue that Twitter ran into, whereas like where do you draw the line between inclusivity and exclusivity? Because you have to decide either what are our verified collections, or can anybody verify an NFT as being on the Ethereum blockchain? The problem they ran into is everybody can take that JPEG and make another one on OpenSea, and then it's verified, and now I have the little Twitter PFP. So it's more of a question of like technically feasible, very easy to do, but where do we draw the line against excluding certain communities, you know?
Interesting challenge.
One question I wanted to just roll back for. I know we keep going back in circles. Just one thing. It's easy yes or no answer. So you were saying read-only contract to sign in with your wallet, get into the app and start using it. When you have that, I know it's on Solana. Fees are very small. We're gonna have Sol in our wallets to pay for those, correct? To make a read-only contract and confirm it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's again to start. Like we're not starting with custodial wallets, and it's a technical hurdle we definitely want to tackle. There's a lot of questions that come up with like malicious actors because we talk about doing faucets, and obviously there's only so much that can come out of a faucet at a given time to these new wallets. And again, the reality of that question is that's a question for when we scale to 100,000 to 1 million users, and when we don't have a technical answer for that yet.
For sure. I know that doesn't go to you. That's just on-chain contract, whatever. That's fine. I just wanted to.
Chat's very curious about the technical aspect of a lot of this. We're very into, yeah.
I'm bringing you guys in just to have like a monthly advice call with our engineering team, because actually I love these questions. Like these are questions that we talk. Like there's rich discussion around them, right? Like exactly this idea of like, cool, you could have custodial wallets, but then how do you like malicious actors are always this call, and there's going to have to be Solana in them and these types of things. Like 100%. Like we think about that stuff a lot, and so like that's where we're sort of starting where we're starting. And even without custodial wallets, I think there's an enormous use for everything we're building out. We're not too concerned with that, but it's like if you want to do something innovative, you're going to have to pick a few meaty challenges and really tackle them, and that's where it's like it's fun to be like, cool, which ones are we really going to go out and tackle? Because yeah, these are awesome. So like keep them. I'm all game for these. I think they're great.
Well,
that's what you get from the alphas, man.
One advantage I think you guys actually have is because you've chosen to go off chain with your actual messaging. Have you guys planned at all for having any kind of like voice or video chatting? Since you're not going to have it on chain, it gives you the ability to be a little bit more flexible in the bandwidth.
It's super simple to actually, yeah, exactly, to be able to do that type of stuff, which is sort of awesome. And in terms of like voice chatting, especially like voice notes are actually like pretty enormous, especially in sort of like non-Western countries from a chat perspective for these types of things. Like the ability to like build out these types of things is like exactly, it makes it a lot easier. When we sort of think about like first and foremost, we want to enable communication. A big reason why it's not on chain is because like for those types of functionality, like we were playing around with them, like you could just have video chatting sort of built in there. That's actually that difficult because there's a lot of different solutions you can sort of use for that. Those are the types of, I think, advantages that you sort of get. But all if you want to sort of build on top of that, of like you want to have a little spaces equivalent with your friends and just be able to have an audio hangout? It's like, why? That's not too difficult of a hurdle to sort of clear. And so like it enables that type of functionality, which we sort of get excited about. So it's not just sort of just messaging per se, but sort of like a new platform for communication.
Yeah, it's one of the things we get quite often in the chat. People are always so surprised that we actually read and interact with chat in a real time, and they're actually talking to a real person that they can see. They're like, "Oh my God, you're like here and like talking to me as I type in chat." They're like, "This is crazy. Like, you're a real person."
It's I think it gets like I think a big part of what we want to do is just like sort of insert the personal element and the human element sort of back into Web3, but in a way that respects it as well. In that sense of like, yeah, you want that idea of just like actually talking to a real person, actually having that. It's a real moment. So it's like, yeah, it's the more we can do that, I think the more we succeed, honestly.
Yeah, it's the human element that people are craving these days. They come here and they see that you're real people doing real stuff, and they're like, "Oh my God, like perfect. That's what I want to see."
I can see all of your faces. You guys are, as you sort of said, like very, very doxed. And I think a big issue is not a lot of people ask like, oh, you guys like going after Discord. It's like it's not an issue that like going after Discord. It just Discord is meant for one type of thing, which is again like enormous amount of people. But you don't necessarily want to have every conversation in public per se. There's some conversation you want to have personally with your friends, right? Like there's not an issue with that. It's not like one's better than the other. Just like sometimes you say things in public, and you want a huge audience. Sometimes like you want to be chatting to 10,000 people. Sometimes you want to talk to the 3 friends that you talk to the most often in a coffee break. It's like, cool. That's what we're focused on, but like not one better than the other. And to your point, it's like when you start to actually be able to create those spaces, then it enables people to actually be able to use these applications for what they're for and actually be able to have, so I think, much more intimate experiences.
Quick one, longer term in terms of being a commercially viable organization, are there any plans to monetize? Might have lots of expensive servers to keep up and running, lots of staff.
Yeah, just venture until they won't give us any more money. No, just kidding. I think the short answer, right, is like anytime you're building a consumer app, it's sort of like you want to sort of wait and see. That said, because of the idea being like you have a number of users, you can sort of figure it out. We have a lot of ideas. I think the first and foremost of all, what we think about is this idea actually around expression packs. This idea of actually like it's not just Line that's doing $200 million a year in sales, right? Like Fortnite does billions of dollars in sales and skins, right? Like Pokemon Go, all these places. It's not because it's an emoji, it's because it's how you actually interact with your world and how you represent yourself, right? That's what we want to give people better ways of representing themselves. So we see the ability to actually implement expression packs with these communities well as, and obviously splitting that revenue, and there, a lot of that's going back to these communities, back to these artists, but I'd be able to take a fee on that as a huge opportunity. But anytime you're aggregating any large number of NFT users, you have a tremendous opportunities to also be able to do things like we were talking about, right? Facilitating peer-to-peer trades, facilitating peer-to-peer sales. All of those are like incredibly rich once you actually start to get the users on the platform and see sort of how they're interacting. Now, again, like we like to be very mindful of how early we are and not promise, and so we're not saying like that is how we're doing it, but we just like to like cool, like there's a lot of different sort of aspects there, and we see it's like it's important to be able to have sustainable growth and not just sort of be like, we'll figure it out later. It's like, no, we think pretty seriously about that, and like we have sort of plans to start implementing those revenue streams relatively quickly.
I don't want to keep you guys any longer. I just want to ask you a couple more questions that I have, and then whatever Vic and Wuhan has that they want to wrap up, and then just grab a couple questions from chat we have written down on our monitors. I don't know if you guys have any last follow-up questions at all, Vic or Wuhan.
I got a couple, but go ahead, Steve. You take it off.
No, you can go. It's fine.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So on your website, I've been digging around for the last couple of days. I cannot find a white paper at all. I can only find a roadmap. When do you plan on releasing them? I am a big fan of white papers. I love reading them.
What do you like to see in your white papers?
As much pictures as possible. The more pictures, right? So, like, let's say you have a 12-page white paper. At least 8 of them have to be pictures.
Just it's really a picture book, and then there's some text on the side.
Exactly.
You want diagrams
rocket ship with like a moon.
Yeah.
Do you want diagrams of architecture that we're gonna throw out in 2 months?
Sure. No, but just a little bit more
No,
in depth than your roadmap, you know?
Yeah. We joke, like, I mean, like, honestly, like, when we look at white papers, like, we preferably, like, we're like, oh great, it's like 40 or 50 pages, it's in scientific format, there's like, it's a white paper, it's not something that someone made in like Microsoft Paint and threw it on the internet. It's like, oh look, it's 10 pages with 8 pages of pictures and a title screen, sweet.
Yeah, it's no, so joking aside, I think that aspect of how we communicate and what we communicate to our community is really important. When it comes to something like a white paper, there is a genuine aspect of like there is as I sort of mentioned with our roadmap, there's this idea of alpha and then sort of beta is when we're going public with our community, and from there, I think that sort of my idea is like, well, let's release it before the beta, but after the alpha. The reason being is we have this alpha tank and we realize the architecture that we have isn't going to scale. We have to do something else. We realize that like actually our use case is going to pivot to this. We're like, there's a lot of fundamentals there where it's like, ideally, if we're going to put in the work for a white paper, we have some central theses, but that's much more like that's not, you know, a white paper can't just, you know, me waxing poetics on digital identity. It also has to be, you know, the fundamentals of the brain. And so it's much more to sort of Joe's joke. I think it's much more like we're building a pretty fast POC, and then we're getting much every day sort of much closer to like how we actually want to sort of build this thing out. And when we talk about, you know, this aspect of security, what we're really thinking, right? Like there's a lot of like, you know, when we're talking about these components, like what including, what are we not? That's all really important. I think if we sort of do it, it's after our alpha testing, because that's sort of the purpose of that testing, to be able to get a lot of those answers. But cool, okay, we have a much better idea of our roadmap for the next little while. Like, here's what we're thinking initially. Additionally, though, after like this, we also intend to do a lot more, right, town halls. We're actually having, you know, each organization sort of stand up and start to give more information. There's the white paper component, but I also think there's just the component of being like much more transparent when you're in build mode with the community. Everyone loves to be in a community, you know, right before mint, but after that, it's like, no, we have every intention of also keeping going in terms of being transparent, building and setting up a sort of content schedule where people can actually get questions answered and sort of dive in more.
Well, I think with the white paper, obviously you break down the technical side, but it's also more of a business plan that's laid out in depth than just a roadmap, right? So not even just for the community and other people to look at it, but even for you guys as developers and owners of it to have something in place for you to follow along as a plan. So
oh, absolutely, the exercise is extraordinarily valuable, right?
Yeah.
And it's like what's harder in Web3 than any other businesses I've either helped build or sort of seen build is like it moves so fast that you're like we're trying to implement 30-day planning right now, right? That's like a pretty standard startup, like, all right, like, so we can all like every executive 30-day plan and then you sort of put together. It's hilarious how difficult it is because you get 1 weekend and you're like, all right, half of this stuff we actually want to do. Like some event happened it's usually it's positive, right? There are opportunities. You're like, all right, switch this, and this. And so it's like, there's sort of this like immediate, midterm and long-term. And sort of your point, it's like, it's extraordinarily valuable to be able to sit down and say, what are we committing to long-term?
Sorry. So why the rush?
Yeah. Because like, this isn't, I think we're sort of at this moment in time where like we're going from early adopters to early majority. There's a clear opportunity right now to, I think, become a leader when it comes to enabling sort of peer-to-peer chat in a way that is Web3 enabled. And I don't think that concept is too difficult to understand or to sort of build. I also don't necessarily think that it's not like Web3 adoption is going to slow down. And so I think the rush is much more to sort of be able to catch this and actually be able to like create the experience that people associate with me. Like, yeah, that's really when I really started to have fun with Web3, because like that, like, when I was getting in, and it was like they were there, and that's for the onboarding. Like, that doesn't last forever. There's gonna be plenty of competitors, right? Like right now, the competition I see out there is primarily, I'm like, oh, I don't see them as direct competitors, or I'm generally a fan of what they're building and that type of stuff. There's gonna be plenty of competitors. We're just getting into this. The number of like extraordinarily strong consumer teams that are working their Web2 jobs and thinking like, I gotta get me some of that crypto Web3 world. Like, it's gonna be happening. And so that's not to say that we just have to build out of fear, or that's not to say that we have to sort of follow based off competition or any of those things. But I do think there's this aspect of like, we're at a moment in time that's pretty special, and we want to seize that to the fullest extent sort of possible. And that's where I really think it's like what sort of pushes our team is like, wow, there is so much here that is so exciting. Let's go out and tackle this.
That's great that you said that, because that follows up to my one of two last questions is, when do you actually have a release date in mind? You put to be determined. Obviously, you must have a time frame in house. Can you say 3 months, 6 months from now?
Yeah, I think if it's not on our website, what we sort of talk about publicly is sort of right now, and the end of March is planned for the beta for our NFT holders. That is sort of that date, and then in the next couple of weeks, Neil's been doing product walkthroughs with individuals, and he's rolling out sort of alpha testing for people in that sort of alpha group. So that is sort of that sort of time frame from there. From our beta, as we sort of think, when is this public for absolutely everyone? We have a couple of different ideas, and we're going to see how that sort of rolls. But the idea of like from a product perspective, it's like, yeah, our beta users from there, communities from there after that, and then be able to actually roll out to sort of a public launch.
Cool. Awesome. Now, another question, right? I want to ask you, it might be a little hard. But do you have plans to work with any social media platforms like Facebook maybe, or any other?
I don't see a ton of reasons to work with. Like, short answer, no. The value that could be derived could be the one use case I could see if people sort of ask about the ability to, on their profile and message party, be able to also have, say, integrate Twitter, so that like, and not for reading, but just have to be like, hey, this is who I am on Twitter, this is my Web3 identity, and so that people see it as a way to actually show off their identities. Like those type of integrations, like maybe.
Well, you can put
like,
your Twitter on OpenSea and everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Like
yeah.
And there's some Web2 hooks you can see, like, all right, if I want to allow this of my Twitter friends who's on message party, like that type of stuff maybe, but like it's not like the short answer, no, though. Like I don't think they're building. In general, I'm not huge fans of a lot of sort of these larger companies, but also I just think, like, again, it goes back to that conversation of like native versus bolting on to Web3. Like it's a different experience. You really can't just sort of like pretend like you can add a few features and like, hey, see, we're going for Web3. Like I don't see the benefit of it really. Maybe that's sort of naive, or maybe I'm not seeing it, but I'm like, no, we know that Instagram is going to integrate NFTs. We know that Twitter is doing what they're doing with profile pictures. I think actually what's funny is how much backlash these platforms get when they start to implement these things. Like if you looked at the comments when Twitter made their announcement for PFPs, by and large negative on that thread. Discord tried to integrate Ethereum, 24-hour backlash. And so I know it's not the question you were sort of asking, but short answer is like, no, I could see it for some integration for profile, but I don't, not in the immediate future, no.
Gotcha. Cool. No, that's fine. We're open. We can go all over the place. It's fine.
I want to do some really cool things around NFTs and like cross app sticker packs and things like that. I think there's some really cool stuff there that hasn't been touched. And I also like, Adam tries to slow me down on ideas, but like NFCs around your like NFC, near field communication technology around like certain communities. And if you like threw a party in New York around some of these conventions and you could only get in with near field communication within the app, I think that'd be super cool too.
I've got, I had an idea. You take it or leave it, but every single NFT, that comes out has got a few things in common. They've got Twitter and they've got Discord. Surely there's a gap here for you guys to, be the place that people go to mint the NFT, to get the community together in the first place. And then as soon as they minted it, they can automatically be within the app, part of that community. Is that something you guys are thinking about?
You can shit on Telegram.
Yeah. It's just like the idea of the ability to be able to like a launch pad. The ability to be able to be a launch pad for this is absolutely something that we sort of think about in the idea. But also this idea, I think on top of that, is like these communities, I don't know how many Discord servers you guys belong to. Probably a lot.
You know the max servers that you can go into. I'm at that max.
That's we're there.
Yeah,
I feel that pain of having to delete servers to get in on pre-sales.
It's a full-time job just deleting the servers that you're in sometimes.
They come on Discord, they go off Discord to another site to do the mint, and then the community kind of disperses and goes their own way. Trying to keep all that contained in one app would be awesome.
Exactly. So if we could be the place that the community disperses, what we mean by that, it's like, cool, take your NFT activity with you, get to represent your NFTs. There's a lot of interesting things. We have, again, these are not in our product roadmap, but like also the idea of like, could you then actually see usage based off NFTs of like, hey, if you're repping a jungle cat, you get to see that you have an engaged community member there if they opt into it, and then you sort of get to actually have like see how engaged your community is and these types of things. But being a place where people can get engaged with communities without it being like this huge lift of having to spend 8 hours a day on Discord. Our average user spends 4.5 hours a day on Discord. That's what we found out from our community survey, which I was like, sounds about right. And I'm also just like, there has to be a better way to be able to interact with this world, and also just have to be more efficient and sort of with friends and that type of stuff. And so the ability to be able to be where people mint and then actually have their community and then actually be able to interact with that community, huge opportunity there. And especially to have token gated chats and that type of stuff, absolutely enormous opportunity there.
Also, shout out to Jungle Cats. We're big fans, actually. A lot of us own them. I know I do. I have a little thing. If you offer a firefighting helmet, I will buy your NFT. Just to let you know, to go along with my name. So,
I think Joe tried to get it into the final mint, and I axed it. we have construction. I'm thinking for our mint. I was thinking of like some of them have these little hologram hats. I think this round doesn't have fire. The best we have is construction for you.
Nah, it needs to be a red fire helmet.
I get it. Yeah. But we could just do enough.
Yeah,
makes sense.
You guys know me from there, or are you just bringing that up randomly?
Just bringing it up. He was bringing up Jungle Cats, but I know you guys are involved. Like
we did our research. We did our research.
Yeah, we do our research.
I didn't know if you were just bringing it up or what, but
no. We do our research, but I wasn't trying to bring it up in anything like that. He was just mentioning it, so that's
yeah. We also own Soul Dogs and a few other of the NFTs you guys are partnered with. Like we're heavily into many communities, many.
Yes, staking them.
You guys should think about doing like almost like on Discord, like doing a show where you talk about like alpha and the state of the market NFTs. It seems like you guys know your stuff.
Why would we do it on Discord? We do it on Twitch 24/7.
No, seriously, we've been live since December 9th. We've never gone down.
We're live 24/7. Like
there was somebody. I'm adding my credit card right now because this was actually every other interview I've done has been super fluff. This has been the best interview I've ever been a part of.
This is awesome.
I'm drinking whiskey. We're chill.
Yeah.
You know, we're laid back. Honestly,
you guys bring some heater questions. I was super I thought it was going to be another fluff interview. So
no. Well, I mean,
I love it.
People get a little uncomfortable because they'll bring like a bunch and they'll be like, "Oh man, I was not like." We've had people here before. Like, I can't do this interview. I got to leave. Like, I need to come back with like technical people. Like,
this is great.
No, I mean, like, listen, we didn't bring the technical here at all because it's not the people on the call right now. But I'm just like. Wuhan, I want you talking to Neil. I want you just drilling him with security questions because I'm loving the questions and not just Wuhan. All of you guys are sort of bringing here. I'm like, yeah, this is a great interview, great research.
Well, thank you.
Thanks. We cover a very broad spectrum of people in the crypto space. Like I'm an engineer by trade. Like Wuhan does security. Steve came up doing like finance and like stock and options. So like we cover a lot of different stuff. We got miners in the community, a bunch of people that do like play to earn. Like I said, we have everything from noobs to veterans, and we just try to do a good cross-sectional representation. Like we got a bunch of questions in chat here too about like SDKs and API plugins. When are you guys going to offer extensions? When can people start writing bots for your programs? Like we can get as technical as technical gets.
I love that you have 200 active watchers that are technical people. Like you just carved out your niche, and dude, that's fucking sweet. Like I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. We might have to request that Message Party gets to come on here every thing because I just think like from your users, like I love that. Like SDKs, like for expression packs, the reason we want to do it is because we want to create a creator economy around people that can actually build out different expressions and actually have that out there. But also within bots within the app, there's a huge opportunity to have people build that out. It's like not fast enough is the short answer. I like to joke like we started in November, 3 months feels like it's been 3 years. It always feels like it's so slow, and yet
it's crypto. 2 weeks,
exactly.
2 months.
It's exactly just as good. But like I love this all.
Now somebody asked here, will there be a token that you can earn doing certain things in the app? Now that being said, I am the biggest Kin fan that you will ever meet. Okay, I don't know if you know what Kin is by chance. It is on the Solano ecosystem, so it will work. It works within apps to offer rewards, and as the rewards, they offer you Kin. Maybe you can look at it at that way instead of making your own token. You can incorporate maybe Kin or something else outside of that as well for using the app.
Actually, that's great to know about them because I did not. And there's like that
Oh.
interesting component of just like be able to have an app reward system there.
I'll send you a link to them. You can read up on them.
You-
Like when
you only got
I
8
am
million tokens.
8 million.
Yeah.
I have
Just chilling.
I have 460 million. It's like when I say I love Kin, I love Kin. But outside
he
of
wants to make his own candles on the chart.
I legit make my own candles. Like I can't. If I did it once, I sold my whole bag at once and literally tanked a bunch. I can't do it. But that's
built on your shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. So like if I go to sell, I have to sell them like 20 million increments. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But something like that down the line, could that happen?
I think if we were going to do it, we'd want to make it our own token. To be honest, like a short answer to what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, like think about what Snapchat did with streaks. I don't know if anyone like Snapchat, but like it was this idea that if I snap you and you snap me for one day, we have one streak and we sort of keep it going. And every day that we both message each other, we get a streak. You had people that would like give their accounts to their friends to keep streaks going. That is a gamification method that literally means nothing else other than we kept talking, kept the streak going, and people keep doing that. Imagine the power of that now.
Train going on right now. Sorry for cutting you off. I don't know if you know what that is. The hype train is people gifting bits and subs to our channel and stuff. My apologies for cutting off. It's a big thing.
Listen, we can come on whenever for if it makes you guys look good, which is like they're not giving it's because you guys are kick ass. Like we're happy to just help you guys get that going. So going back to this though, this idea that like that the users don't get anything for that besides having a little streak going. Now, what if you could actually have that so you could actually earn something for that, earn for your participation? What we do have in mind is like on a basic level, it's like cool. Like if we could have fun things like the first 1,000 people that use the app every day for 6 months get a certain NFT, and there's only 500 of them, right? And like as an example.
Yeah,
there is so much you can do with in-app sort of gamification and these types of things. And it's not gamification in a black hat way. It's gamification of like actually rewarding users for using this type of app in a real way. And it's like that I could absolutely see using. And that's why when we sort of say like we're not ready for a token, it's because it's like we're still getting ready for like what this app is because so we can learn how we actually want to apply all these things. But like there's some exciting things, especially if then you can actually like buy things within the app where you're not showing the token, but it's like cool, you get to like unlock super rare features, you get to unlock rare expression packs, unlock like there's all sorts of things you can do with that. And so that's where I think it gets more exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. Hold on, I'm looking through the giant list of questions.
Yeah, I got a question from chat here. So a couple people in chat have been asking. So are you going to be able to, since it's end-to-end encryption, are you going to be able to actually do direct like picture messaging with your contacts, like not NFT related, but say I snapped a picture or I have something I want to send you? Is there going to be like a file transfer mechanism through the app in the future? Are you guys planning anything like that?
You're talking about just like the ability to literally take a picture and send it.
Send an attachment or send. Yeah.
I mean, like there's and the short answer, yes, that's possible. There's a couple different. There are a lot of chat integrations that we can use right now. For instance, like comment chat, for instance, and like the beautiful thing about a comment chat is like easy end-to-end encryption and like everything else you want. Like right, like for setting this up on Heroku right now, like you can literally just have FaceTime and all these different types of things and all that there. I think our job is to actually be able to build that out directly, but that ability to have like actually send pictures, like exactly those are the types of things that you do with your friends that you're not going to do in a massive Discord server that you do want to do with your friends. And so like absolutely anything that actually enables that communication that goes in there. And that's sort of like anything that you can think about for standard chat, I think has to also sort of be in there.
So like in that same vein then, are you guys looking like you'll provide support for like chatbot integration in the future when you start doing group messaging, or are you going to try to stay away from the sort of more sterile?
Because that can open up though.
Yeah,
I think,
it's a double-edged sword. Like all these things, right? Like the best invention is also the worst weapon. Like
there's this funny gray area when we talk about group and what we mean by that, right? Because is a group 10 people? Is it 100 people? Is it 1,000 people, right? Where's a line for sure a group? I think when we sort of think about, and the reason that we say we would love to build an SDK and it's like big picture roadmap 100%, immediate robot knows, because it's such a it's you have to be very thoughtful how you roll these things out because it's such a double-edged sword. There's a lot of really fun things you could do with building out just like even fun game bots within this sort of system, or even just fun meshing app bots for this, or to actually enable functionality. When we think about this idea of bots within it, though, it's a double-edged sword. So we're not rushing that, right? Like the immediate, I'm not gonna pretend like we're gonna say we're having an SDK this year to build out bots, because we won't. That's not gonna be that plan. But the ability in the long term to be able to build out functionality for this, these things are built over a course of years. Like that gets really exciting when you think about like what users can actually build for this type of stuff, not just on the expression pack side, but the ability to build, like, what does dApps look like within Message Party? I don't know right now, but like that gets to be really interesting, and the idea of being able to actually build that out gets really exciting. But like our job is to set the foundation for this right now, so this can become a thing in the future.
You guys are so early in your life cycle at the moment.
Yeah, actually, I don't.
Stuff we said is probably like a year or so away at least.
Yeah, exactly. I want a bold-faced lie and pretend it's not. It's like, no, we're transfers. Like this is, I can say what we're building on a roadmap, what we're not. So it's like these things are all, like, these are things that we just talk about regularly, and we get so excited about, and we have opinions on like what should and shouldn't there be there. And there's also really fun debates, right, around like, as a lot of these things are double-edged swords. You start giving up one to gain another. But yeah, it's like these are things. It's like we're early, and we'll keep people up to date on what we're building and how we're building it out. And also like use our community as resources for how to build out certain things.
Yeah. Well, one last question that I usually ask people at the end of every interview is, will you support figging on the blockchain? What do you think?
Dancing? Like figging?
Figging on the blockchain, yes.
Yeah, he knows what it is.
You know what it is?
I don't.
Right.
I don't.
Oh, all right. No, I have my own crypto. That's why I was asking you guys support it.
Anyway.
Yeah, anyway, don't worry about it. I'll explain to you guys later. I'll explain to you guys later.
I think that's up to our community. I'll sneak it in on one of the surveys, and if they say yes, I know what it entails.
All right, so we got 100 responses. Is this just a pure yes or no, or do you want another option?
These responses are botted. I don't know what figging. Neil's gonna be like, I don't know what figging.
Just Google it. Just Google it.
Who's the overall
Google?
Sorry, who's the overall like project manager for this whole app?
Who's from a roles perspective? Like who's overseeing products?
Because you often have like a lot of leaders and you have a lot of techs, but you don't have the person that binds it all together, as in a project manager keeping an eye on everything.
Yeah, so Neil is sort of wearing the hat right now of, like, Neil is not our CTO. He has a background to be able to be technical and sort of manage engineers, but he is not our CTO. He's overseeing tech team, and he's going to be overhiring. He really serves as product manager at a high level as CTO. Ultimately, we have what we're hiring right now is a sort of founding product design, and then we have engineering resources. Neil's job right now as COO is really like, he's on the product side. I'm much more on the sort of creative and sort of studio side, and so he sort of serves as that product manager. And like, obviously, as we scale, we have to have actual product managers, and then they report into Neil and that type of stuff, and myself. But that's really his background. That's where he's really sort of excellent at, and so that's where he's sort of the glue on that side of things. And then our job is essentially to work with, like, cool, what are we seeing from the community? What are we seeing from the art side? How do we integrate that all together so it doesn't feel like it's siloed, but it's all sort of seamless?
Great.
I just had one other technical thing I was going to bring up. It's kind of more, not so much directed at you, but something that you guys might need to be aware of. Have you heard that OpenSea just recently announced that they're going to allow creators to track IP locations? And part of the issue with this is you can basically embed a pixel inside the NFT that provides the code for doing IP tracking. So now if you're going to have an NFT that's now inside your encrypted end-to-end app, you can have a malicious actor that can now figure out where the end user is in the real world based on IP location.
It goes beyond that as well, though. Just looking at it will encrypt your IP. Just not even, like, let's say we're in the app, right? And I shared my NFT with you, right? By me sharing my NFT with you, I can capture our IP address.
Wow, didn't know that.
Look at his face.
Fun.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. Yeah, so you can take that back to your technical team.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hooray.
Well, when did that happen?
That just came out.
Like 3
I
days
can
ago,
share
2
an
days
article
ago.
with you.
Yeah, we have some articles on it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
walk me through.
Yeah,
Say it again.
through technically how the latter half of that works.
Yes. Did you want me to explain it, or you want to, Vic?
Go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
All right, I'm going to explain it in layman terms for everybody. All right.
Yeah, please. Thank
So they're able to go in the URL because all of NFTs, they're stored in, it's just a URL, right? And it's stored on a server. So inside the code, right, of the URL, they can plant an IP catcher. By you just viewing, right? Let's say you go to OpenSea, you click on a listing on OpenSea, it's not going to capture that way. The only way it will capture is if you actually click on the picture to blow it up to full screen. Because at that point, when you click on the picture, that's where it represents into a URL to go over to the server.
Got it.
But if I just share it with you and you come and look at it, then I can capture your IP. Because on OpenSea with their API is OpenSea is actually grabbing the URL to pop the picture up from the blockchain. Where if I'm sharing it to you one-on-one, you're actually physically going to that URL to grab it.
It's like a man-in-the-middle attack with like URL modification.
Yep.
Yeah. And with it being like, with it being cryptocurrencies and NFTs, right? If I now have a physical location for you, I can now find you in the real world and ransom you to release the funds that you have to me or your NFT collection. So I can go to your wallet now and see things in your wallet and et cetera, right? It starts going down a very nefarious rabbit hole very quickly.
Interesting. That's how they chose to solve the IP problem. That was the salute. They're like, this is the best way to do that. Like, it feels like there's a lot of ways that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool. Well, really fun note to end this on. Really, thanks.
On that bombshell.
Well, just food for thought, right? I mean, like, if you guys are going to leave, at least you can leave back and go back to your technical team and be like, hey, so we just found all this, like, crazy shit, so... But you guys are welcome back. I mean...
I want to come back
next time. I want to bring Neil on next time. Yeah. He's like, we try to separate our times a little bit, but it'd be fun. I'd love to come back here.
Well, you can just kick him into the wolves' den. You can just say, hey, just go talk to these guys. They'll be fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. It's gonna be a quick 20-minute chat. Don't worry about it. Just have fun.
No support. It'll be softball questions. A bunch of softball questions.
It's been really fun. Like I said, I'm a cynic, so I came here on the interview like, okay, let's see what this project's about. Is it another one of those ones? But you guys have filled me a lot with a lot of confidence there. Looks like you got a good thing going.
I appreciate it. I genuinely mean that. I will probably be going back to you guys for the I very much welcome cynics as well, not just like in a harder way, but those are the type of questions. Like, usually if there's a question around cynical, it's because it's a good question. It's a hard question to answer, and like those are sort of like, this is the time to be answering a lot of those foundational questions, because as I mentioned, like, we are early, and this is when you can start to make larger architectural decisions. And so I appreciate all the questions. I appreciate you guys having us on.
For sure. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for joining.
Like I said, you guys are, like I said, we're 24/7. If you guys ever just want to come here, we're like, hey, like, we just did this thing. Like I said, there's a couple dozen of us that are in your guys' Discord trying to get for the alpha release. So there's definitely a big group of us that if you're coming like, hey, we just released this feature, there's going to be people that are going to be on their phone instantly, like, oh, or on their web app or whatever, like testing it out, trying it.
Is there anyone?
Definitely letting Neil know everyone with the AX on the back on the alpha release is just going to absolutely pummel him with questions, and to be prepared, because they're going to be the best questions.
If there's anybody listening in on this channel that listens in frequently and doesn't have a whitelist, drop me a message. And if you have an AX in your name, we'll work something out.
Oh, so somebody just asked us, well, any waitlist spots? So there's an answer. That's
there we go.
Of you. Thank you. And I'll post a couple links to the stuff for the NFT that we were talking about too, in that
awesome.
Group chat. All right.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a great chat.